Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Yes, we're back in video format today. We've had a lot of live streams and such recently. We've also been on the second channel. It's nice to be sitting down on the Ryan 118 channel talking about Celtic once more, but I am absolutely choking for something monumental to happen. Some big news, something to actually fill up a 10-minute video, because right now I am dying without Celtic. I don't know about you, but I just want the summer to hurry up and move along. I'm enjoying myself, but I do really miss Celtic. Before we go any further with the video, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button down below. We're on the road to 35,000 subscribers, so the quicker we get there, the better. Your support is much appreciated and you can be a part of it by just pressing those two little buttons below. It only takes a second, it's absolutely free, and if you enjoy what you see, then it's well worth it. So yeah, make sure to do that if you haven't. So summer is kind of moving along nicely. We're looking at little bits of news trickling in and out of the club surrounding transfers, both in and out. But today I thought for the first portion of this video we'd sit down and we'd look over what has been, you know, quite a big summer window for the exits, for the outside of things. You know, we're talking about a big window in the inside, you know, as players that we want to bring in, Jota, Cameron Carter-Vickers straight away, and then of course reinforcement on our side. But and amongst all of that, sometimes you get lost with players who are going to be leaving the club, and although I don't think we're going to lose anybody significant in this transfer window, well, I hope we don't lose anybody significant, there are players who have sort of went out the back door with not much being said about it. And we've not really touched on it in this channel. This is a big summer at Celtic. There's almost a sort of mini exodus going on. I think that there's still room for a lot of players to leave, and we spoke about that. We've done the tier list video a couple of weeks ago, and we looked over players who I think have an important place at the club and maybe a sort of dubious future at the club. And, you know, there is room for a lot of departures, more than you probably anticipated or expected. Come the end of last season, because we were on such a high and because everything was going so well, you didn't really want to look at that sort of side of things. There wasn't really a need to do that, but now that we're in the transfer window, it's all sort of coming to a head, and we're seeing players leave the club that maybe some you expected to go, but some you didn't expect to go. So these bits of news, a couple of them are a little outdated. It was actually a few days ago that news broke of some releases at Celtic, but we've not covered it in this channel. We've not spoke about the sort of effects of the releases for both the club and the players involved. But this is the list of contracts that have been expiring or have yet to expire this window with Celtic. I say yet to expire because we're still waiting on official confirmation with one of the players that we'll talk about in a moment. But Luca Connell was released from the club last week alongside the likes of Brodie Patterson and Kerr McInroy. That was confirmed in the Daily Express. And then of course there's other expiring contracts there with players involved, players who ultimately didn't have much of a future at Celtic. Now I think some of these guys we really would have loved to see come through the system and come up to the senior team and have an impact on the side, but it was just never going to happen. Players like Kerr McInroy, you know, they've had little glimpses in kind of friendly games, cup games, over the course of the last couple of years, but ultimately when you're on a loan move to the likes of Dunfermline, Ayr United, and it's not going well for you there, the chances are slim that it's going to happen for you at the senior team at Celtic. So I'm not surprised to see most of these players leaving the club that are involved so far, and I don't think it will just be the end of it. I think this is only the beginning. There are players that need to leave for so many reasons, for the betterment of their own career, and for the better of Celtic. You know, they're not going to do anything but kind of join a backlog at our club. You know, we're going to just keep loaning players out. We're going to be paying wages, and of course none of these guys are probably on a high wage, but you know, it's just not good for both parties to keep players around and for the best of their career, and I wish them all the best of their career. Of course, they're very talented guys, and I'm sure that they'll go on and do things that they couldn't maybe achieve at Celtic. But for the better of both parties, it's always right to kind of move things on. We spoke about this on last night's live stream, and Luca Connell was a name that came up a couple of times in the comment section. A couple of people sort of down about the fact that he never really got a chance at Celtic, and now he's just moving on without that opportunity. I think, once again, like Kerr McInroy and such, when you're given these loan moves and they don't work out to the potential you'd like them to, the chances are going to be very slim. And I think that, you know, it wasn't an Ange Postecoglou signing. It wasn't someone who was ever in his plans. I just don't think it was ever going to work for him at Celtic. And just like I touched on with the last set of players there, it's probably best that he moves on for the better of his own career. He's someone who did have a little bit of potential behind him. There was a little bit of excitement when he signed, and what he could maybe do in the future at Celtic, but we never really got to see that. And I'm sure he'll be eager to try and use that sort of same potential and that same sort of excitement elsewhere. So best of luck to him, best of luck to all the players who've been released from Celtic, and we'll see what happens over the next few days and weeks with where they might end up and who else may leave Celtic. And Karamoko Dembele, we've still not had official word as to whether or not he has left the club. There's been no sort of, yeah, he's gone message, not even in the tabloids, not that I've seen anyway. Maybe I've missed a vital piece of information. Karamoko's contract was meant to be up on the 31st of May. We now sit here on the 6th of June, but there's been nothing said anywhere as to whether or not he has left the club, and maybe we'll hear very soon, and maybe it'll come out after this video tonight or something like that. No, my luck it would, but you'd imagine he's ready to move on to another guy that was brought up in last night's live stream numerous times, and once again, what is the need in keeping him around at this point? I'm sure he'll be eager to play football. He's getting on a little bit as well. You know, that's a guy who we've obviously been talking about since he was 13, 14 years old, but he's now 19, coming up 20, I think. He'll be wanting to play football. He'll be wanting to realise that potential that's there, and injuries have certainly not helped him, and I think maybe development hasn't went the way it would have liked to. Maybe the kind of growth as a player hasn't been there. But, you know, he's wanting to realise that somewhere. It's not going to be at Celtic at this point. There's competition in that side he's not going to get ahead of. He's not even going to get ahead of Forest, I think, in this team. And that's not my opinion or my sort of, my position on Dembele. I'd love to see him get a chance ahead of the likes of Forest, but he won't, I don't think. So there's no use in him staying around. I'd imagine that he has left the club. We're just waiting on that official word. It was meant to be up on the 31st. But we're yet to hear officially. There you go. So other players who could be leaving the club very soon, but with actual money involved rather than being released from their contracts. Let's start with my boy Vasilis Barkas. There is an argument that this could be the worst transfer in Celtic history. Not going to shy away from that, as much as I've been backing Barkas from day one, and as much as I've wanted it to work out. The £5 million, £6 million fee that we paid for him, the way that his careers went at Celtic, and now his potential departure from the club doesn't make for pleasant reading, and it's really a bit of a humiliating one, sadly. I wish it could have worked out another way, but here we are. There was rumours the other night in the Daily Record that Barkas could see his contract torn up at Celtic. This was the article that they had pushed on social media and on their website. Reading into it was suggesting that he could be let go for free in order to return to his home country of Greece. That seems to have been rubbished. I don't think his contract will be torn up, and Celtic should be trying to get some money for the player. Now, this is the thing. Are they going to get money for the player? Would it be better to tear up his contract because he's done nothing to justify... Let's not even think about £5 or £6 million. He's probably not done anything to justify a transfer fee of over £1 million from his time at Celtic. Now, this is a guy who obviously done really well at AEK Athens. There was a reason he came here with a hefty price. He was performing in the Champions League as well. So, you know, there was a reason there, but that's all gone. That mojo has been well and truly lost, and now you're looking at a situation where, you know, there's not going to be a lot of money, you'd imagine, on the table for Celtic. Now, and after this article was released by the Daily Record, there was then more reports that teams in Holland are looking at the services of Barkas, and there could be a fee involved for Celtic to get rid of the Greek goalkeeper. It's a shame how everything's went for him. I do actually feel really bad for him. I know he's been rotten, but I feel bad for the guy. It's really just been a horrid time for everyone involved. I don't imagine it's been easy for him to sit and watch it unravel the way it has. So yeah, it looks as though Barkas could be off or waiting for offers to kind of come in, but I don't think his contract's going to be torn up. I think that's the moral of this whole story. And Liam Scales, another guy who could be heading out of Celtic, and this one was more surprising to me than any of the names so far to leave the club, and surprising because we're talking about a permanent transfer. Liam Scales could be leaving to join Aberdeen on, yes, as I said, a permanent transfer, rather than the loan deal that I think some of us may have expected to see Liam Scales go on, which I'm not going to argue with, and I'm not going to dispute, and I'm not going to question, because he's not good enough to play for Celtic, is he? Not at this moment in time. I think we've seen that firsthand. For as much as he's put in a couple of good shifts, he's scored a couple of great goals as well. You know when someone's up to the standard of a Celtic player, and from his appearances for the club so far, he's simply not at that level. I think a move to Aberdeen would be fantastic for him. I don't know how much Celtic will get out of that. I don't know how beneficial it is for us financially, but it's one that I think that for once again both parties just makes perfect sense. He's been very much on the fringes of Ange Postecoglou's team. He's played 13 times for us, don't get me wrong, which is a decent amount to play, but at the end of the day, he's not going to be doing much as a Celtic player. We're looking to bring in other left backs as well. Where does that leave a player like Liam Scales? Is it worth just sitting him in the B team? Absolutely not. It's a guy, once again, who's getting a little bit older as well. You want to play football, and I feel like I'm just repeating the same points for every player, but it's true. You know, as a footballer, you don't want to sit on the bench constantly unless you're Scott Bain, but you know, you want to go out and challenge yourself, and Aberdeen's a great place for him to do that. That's a decent level to be playing, and the door isn't closed on a Celtic return one day if he goes to Aberdeen. He could easily go up there and perform really well, and who knows, the Irishman might end up back at Celtic one day. But it was a signing that was baffling in the first place. I don't think it's went the way that most people wanted it to go, especially Irish supporters who really wanted Scales to come through and succeed at Celtic. But there isn't that room for him right now. I just don't think it's ever going to work. And Aberdeen could be a lot of logical, could make a lot of logical sense. That makes no sense. But it's a lot of logic behind it, I think. I think Jim Goodwin would be a good manager for him as well, and he could help improve Aberdeen's team. So once again, I would expect to see him go now that that's all starting. I think it would just be about agreeing a deal, and who knows, it might end up just leaving on loan anyway, but I wouldn't mind losing him permanently. I know a lot of people will be saying, why not just loan him out then, because what if he goes and plays well? Well, realistically, we're going to be signing left backs to play ahead of him anyway, so yeah. Wow, that was a lot of time spent on the outside of things in Celtic transfer talk. It's now time to look at the insides. I feel like I'm talking about like a human body when I say the outside and the inside, but you know what I'm trying to say. Christopher Scott, we talked about him last night on that stream once more. If you want to hear the updates on that, I recommend you go and watch last night's live stream. I'm not going to rehash everything I said last night, but it's looking ever so closer that he will become Celtic's first summer signing apparently. Hopefully he does. We'd be very happy with that. But if you want to hear my opinion, make sure to check out that live stream. Now, the one player that we could talk about a little bit more in depth today is one that has came out over the last couple of days that Celtic have been scouting, and that is Aberdeen's Connor Barron. So Connor Barron spent the second half of the season back with Aberdeen. He impressed, he looked really good for a 19-year-old after his first half spell with Celtic Hearts. So he's had a season where he's been playing in a couple of different levels, and he's also been playing with the Scotland's under-21s, where Celtic were scouting him the other day in their draw with Belgium, where he had, what I've been reading anyway, a very decent performance. Someone who could come in and be a decent player in that area we're looking to improve. And what area is that? Central midfield. Seen some comparisons to Ryan Jack, which wasn't great, but what I do see is a player who does have a lot of potential and seems to be getting a lot of the plaudits up at Aberdeen. So someone who could certainly be an option for Celtic. Now, we've just spoke about a bunch of players who have came in with potential, with youth, and they haven't been able to break the glass ceiling at Celtic, you could say. And could there be a risk of Connor Barron being another one of those? Yeah, I suppose so. That's just the risk with anybody. But I don't know, it seems like Ange Postecoglou is pretty impressed with him. He's also someone who I think could come in on one of those sort of deals where you sign him but you loan him back to Aberdeen for the year, you let him play football, because it is going to be hard to break into a team with Rio Hatate, Callum McGregor, guys like that. You know, he's not as much of an attacking player, so I'm looking at them mostly, but there's certainly, you know, that's a team that's an area we're looking to improve. So you know, these chances might come around a little bit more often and a little bit quicker for Connor Barron if we were to sign him now. I don't imagine he'd be too expensive. Aberdeen, I know, rate him quite highly, but I think that they would have to be realistic in what they're looking for. But he could be an impressive player for Celtic if he gives that if he gets that opportunity at the club. So I think it's one worth keeping an eye on. It's certainly a smart player to scout. I think there's a lot worse you could do than that, but someone homegrown as well with a lot of potential. There's a lot of green ticks in a player like Connor Barron. And just to end off the video today, I want to talk about a couple of players who could have joined Celtic. They were linked with Celtic but opted for other moves, because there's been a couple of articles, a couple of interviews over the last couple of days which has involved Celtic, and not just Celtic but Ange Postecoglou and our kind of new tenure here at the club, our new sort of era. Sasha Bowie, you might remember that name, the right back who Celtic tried to sign last year, or were in talks to try and sign. He came out and commented on his move. He decided to move to Galatasaray rather than Celtic, and he looked back on it saying, yes, Celtic wanted to transfer me. When I had to make a decision, I chose Galatasaray because it is a bigger club. I'll let you take it away, Mick.
That went well.
Things have not went well at all for Sacha Boey or Galatasaray. I think they've had a season from hell for a club of their size, their stature. And there's no denying that Galatasaray are a huge club, massive club, one of the biggest in Turkey. But they're not like a club in Celtic. Let's get one thing perfectly straight. But he chose where he wanted to go, and it's worked out for him. I'm sure he's loving it because we're having fun over here. But it also brings us on to another player. Riley McGree, remember that name? January, he was very close to joining Celtic. He ended up opting for Middlesbrough in the English Championship after what looked to be a sort of done deal at a point. We ended up getting Matt O'Reilly instead, so I'm absolutely buzzing about that. But Middlesbrough and their fans took great pride in rubbing it in that Riley McGree would not be joining Celtic. If you remember their post when they signed, it was he preferred red to green. They wanted to rub it in. Middlesbrough fans were talking about how he'd be playing in the Premier League this season. Once again, take it away, Mick.
That went well.
But this is what Riley had to say. He said, "I truly believe I made the right one," in talking about his decision. "All respect to Celtic and Ange, but I am a Middlesbrough player." He sounds very chuffed with his decision to go there, and fair play if he is, but, just saying, Champions League and all that. I'm not one, I never normally like being one of those fans who hold on to grudges with players and managers who hadn't joined us. Because I remember when Eddie Howe first joined Newcastle, it was a rocky start. It was a really rocky start. He obviously ended up doing a terrific job come the end of the season, but it was quite a rocky start, and there was so many people on social media giving it the whole, "Thank God Celtic never got him, get it up, you this, that, next thing." I didn't care. The tweets actually sort of annoyed me to an extent, because I'm like, why should we care? We've got Ange, we're doing well. Best of luck to Eddie Howe in his career, I suppose. I mean, I'm not really bothered on either side, but I don't like holding on to grudges. I don't care. Sacha Boey and Riley McGree, they've made their decisions, but it was just interesting to reflect on when these interviews were done to see how we've ended up getting Juranovic and Matt O'Reilly, and I think we'd all agree that we've ended up being in a better situation. So it's fun to sort of look at them, but they seem happy with their decisions, and that's what it is. And that brings us to the end of today. I never record for this long. I think I've been going about 25 minutes, and the video is not going to be that long because of editing, but I've been talking for a long time, and I never do that, so I'm going to quickly end things off. Make sure to hit like and subscribe. We're back all week with videos. I hope you look forward to them. I'm going to go and edit now in this roasting hot loft. I am boiling, by the way. Summer is well and truly here. Right, I'll see you all next time.